Of NVIDIA rising today as the chipmaker says it expects to be able to sell in China again, but can it pull ahead of rivals in that country?
Who cares? That's not the real story. But in case you've been living under a rock, there's this American company called NVIDIA that makes really advanced microchips. And sometime in April, US President Donald Trump banned them from exporting these chips to China because blah, 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 trade war, blah, 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 America first, all of that stuff. So last week, Trump apparently realized, stopping China from having these NVIDIA chips is just going to force them to accelerate their own local chip development program. And when they do that, they're going to beat us like they always do nowadays, and we don't want that to happen. So last week, Trump removed the ban and NVIDIA can sell chips in China once again. Now, here's the thing. NVIDIA is a publicly traded company, which means that when a positive major announcement like this is made, its stock price will go up. And someone who was holding that stock and sells it right after it spikes will make a lot of money. Now, what if that someone happens to be a person with inside knowledge of what announcement is going to be made soon? Like, say, I don't know, someone in the US government who knows a guy who works in the White House, or maybe a senator who hears things in the corridors of power before other people do, or perhaps a congressman who sits on a committee that oversees the people and institutions that make the stock market go up or down. What would you call that? Conflict of interest? Insider trading? Maybe even financial crime? Or you can call it real life, because that is exactly what several US congressmen have been up to over the past few weeks. Data from the investment data platform QuiverQuant shows that in the 3 weeks before Trump lifted the NVIDIA China ban, no fewer than 6 US Congress members loaded up on nearly $6 million worth of NVIDIA stock. As soon as the announcement was made, NVIDIA added over $150 billion in market cap, and these Congress members became significantly wealthier than they already were. And I know what you're thinking, surely there's no way this can be legal in the US, right? And you're right, sort of. So insider trading by members of the US House of Congress has been such an issue for such a long time that in 2012, former US President Barack Obama actually signed something called the Stop Trading on Congressional Knowledge Act, or the STOCK Act, into law. As the name implies, the point of this bill was to criminalize the use of privileged information by elected representatives to profiteer off their role in government. There's just one problem. The penalty for violating the STOCK Act is apparently a whopping $200. Also, the requirement for a searchable database to help the public know what stock trades their elected representatives were making was quietly removed from this bill a year after it was signed into law. In other words, if, say, you sit on a House Foreign Affairs Committee and from your classified briefings you become aware when the next US War of Empire is happening, you can go buy Lockheed Martin or Raytheon or Boeing stock ahead of time, knowing fully well that once the public finds out that war is coming, the prices are going to soar. And if anyone takes enough of an interest in your stock trades for this to be rightfully flagged as insider trading, then your punishment will be to pay the mighty sum of $200. What a deterrent. You see, the empire always has a lot to say about corruption everywhere in the world except at home. Every year it funds anti-corruption awards for brave journalists and whistleblowers who take on various manifestations of corruption. But curiously, the winners are always from Africa, Asia, Latin America, the Caribbean, and Eastern Europe. Apparently, corruption is not a thing in Western Europe or in North America or in Australia or in New Zealand. I wonder why that is. Maybe it's because instead of describing what you did as theft and embezzlement of government funds worth nearly the annual GDP of Africa, you get to say that you cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions because, I don't know, it fell down the sofa or something. Maybe it's because instead of explaining your $10,000 toilet seat cover as a contract scam or contract inflation or a budget padding scandal, you instead get to justify it as necessary due to commercial patterns. Maybe it's because instead of insider trading, you can describe the blatant use of privileged government information to achieve a 31% profit margin on your stock trades as shut up and stop asking difficult questions. And here's $200. Once you see it, you can't unsee it.